The windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the torrential rain as Maya Chin gripped the steering wheel with white knuckles. Lightning split the sky like God's own scalpel, illuminating the empty streets of Cedar Falls in stark, electric blue. Thunder followed seconds later, a bone-deep rumble that seemed to shake her ancient Honda Civic down to its rusted frame. Just get home, she told herself, squinting through the deluge. Tommy's with Mrs. Rodriguez. He's safe. You just need to get home. But even as she repeated the mantra, Maya's exhausted mind wandered to the stack of bills sitting on her kitchen counter like accusatory sentinels. The rent notice stamped in red ink. Tommy's school supply list crumpled beside her purse, $93 she didn't have for folders and pencils, and the calculator his teacher insisted he needed for second grade. When had second grade become so expensive? Her car made that grinding noise again as she turned onto Maple Street, the sound that meant another repair bill she couldn't afford. Maya pressed her lips together and forced herself to breathe. She was a registered nurse at Cedar Falls General Hospital. She saved lives. She was strong, capable, independent. She could handle this. You've been handling it for 2 years, the tired voice in her head whispered. Ever since David. No. She wouldn't go there. Not tonight, not while driving through a storm that seemed determined to wash the whole world away. The radio crackled with static, the weather service issuing another severe storm warning. Maya reached to adjust the dial and nearly jumped out of her skin when something howled through the night, a sound so primal and haunting it raised every hair on her arms. She slowed the car, heart hammering. That wasn't the wind. The wind didn't sound like a wounded animal crying for help. Keep driving, logic demanded. You're exhausted. You worked a 12-hour shift. You're hearing things. But Maya had been a nurse for 8 years, and instinct was a language she spoke fluently. Something was wrong. Terribly, desperately wrong. The howl came again, raw with pain and fear, echoing from the narrow alley behind Morrison's diner. Maya pulled over, her hands shaking as she turned off the engine. Rain immediately began drumming on the roof like impatient fingers. She sat there for a heartbeat, too, knowing she should drive away. She had her own problems, her own child to worry about. She couldn't save everyone. But the sound came a third time, weaker now, fading, and Maya was out of the car before she could stop herself. The rain hit her like ice water, soaking through her scrubs in seconds. Maya hunched her shoulders and ran toward the alley, her sneakers splashing through puddles that reflected the neon glow of the diner's broken sign. The smell hit her first, garbage and grease and something else, something wild that made her nose wrinkle. Hello? She called, raising her voice over the storm. Is someone there? Are you hurt? Lightning flashed, and in that split second of illumination, Maya saw her. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, huddled behind the massive green dumpster like a broken doll. She was soaked to the skin, her dark hair plastered to her skull, but it was her clothes that made Maya's breath catch. Expensive clothes, a designer dress that probably cost more than Maya made in a week, now torn and muddy. Patent leather shoes that belonged at a fancy party, not in a garbage-strewn alley. Oh, sweetheart. Maya's voice cracked as she approached slowly, hands visible and non-threatening. Honey, what are you doing out here? The child looked up, and Maya's world tilted. Her eyes were gold. Not brown with gold flecks, not hazel that caught the light. Pure, molten gold that seemed to glow in the darkness like something out of a fairy tale. Lightning struck again, and for one impossible moment, those eyes reflected the electric light exactly like an animal's. Maya blinked hard, rain streaming down her face. The exhaustion was getting to her. Children didn't have eyes that glowed. It was just a trick of the storm, the lightning, her overworked imagination. What's your name, baby? She asked gently, crouching down despite the puddles soaking through her scrubs. Where are your parents? The little girl didn't answer. She just stared at Maya with those unsettling golden eyes, clutching something against her chest. Maya caught a glimpse of carved wood, some kind of pendant or charm hanging from a leather cord around the child's neck. I'm Maya, she tried again, using the same calm voice that worked on frightened patients. I'm a nurse. I help people when they're hurt. Are you hurt, sweetheart? Still nothing. But the child's grip on the pendant tightened, knuckles going white with strain. Maya's heart clenched. She'd seen enough trauma cases to recognize the signs, the blank stare, the protective posture, the way the little girl flinched when thunder rolled overhead. Whatever had happened to put this child in an alley during the worst storm of the year, it hadn't been good. Okay, Maya said softly. You don't have to talk. But I can't leave you here. It's not safe. She held out her hand. Will you come with me? Just until we can find your family? For a long moment, the child didn't move. Then, slowly, she uncurled from her protective huddle and took Maya's hand. Her skin was fever-warm despite being soaked with cold rain, and Maya felt an odd little shock at the contact, not electric, exactly, but something that seemed to hum along her nerves. The child was small and light, but there was a strength in her grip that surprised Maya. That's good, baby. That's so brave. Maya smiled encouragingly and started to lead the way back to her car. We're going to get you somewhere warm and dry, and then. She stopped. At the mouth of the alley, just visible in the glow of the streetlight, shadows moved. Not the random dance of wind-blown debris, but purposeful shapes that seemed to watch them with predatory stillness. Maya's throat went dry. Hello, she called out, proud that her voice stayed steady. Is someone there? The shadows shifted, melted back into the darkness between buildings. But the feeling of being watched, hunted, remained like a cold weight in Maya's chest. The little girl's hand tightened in hers, and Maya looked down to see genuine fear in those golden eyes. Not the vague confusion of a lost child, but the sharp terror of someone who knew exactly what those shadows meant. Get to the car, Maya's instinct screamed. Get to the car now. She scooped the child up, ignoring her grunt of surprise, and ran for the Honda. Her keys slipped in her wet fingers, and for one horrible moment she thought she'd dropped them. Then the lock clicked, the door opened, and they were inside with the doors locked and Maya's heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. It's okay, she gasped, as much for herself as for the child. We're safe now. Everything's okay. But as she started the engine and pulled away from the alley, Maya caught sight of the rearview mirror. The shadows had returned to the mouth of the alley, and this time they looked disturbingly like the silhouettes of people. People who were watching her car disappear into the storm. Maya's apartment building looked like every other low-income complex in Cedar Falls, brick facade weathered to the color of old blood, parking lot full of potholes that turned into lakes when it rained. Home sweet home, she thought with familiar cynicism as she carried the little girl up the stairs to the second floor. The child hadn't said a word during the 15-minute drive, just sat in the passenger seat clutching her wooden pendant and staring out at the storm with those unsettling eyes. Maya had tried gentle questions. What's your name? Where do you live? How did you end up in that alley? But got nothing except silence in return. This is us, Maya said softly as she unlocked apartment 2B. It's not much, but it's warm and dry. Not much was being generous. The living room was barely large enough for a second-hand couch and coffee table. The kitchen was a galley with appliances that belonged in a museum. But Maya had made it a home with touches that didn't cost money, wildflowers from the park in mason jars, Tommy's artwork taped to the refrigerator, books from the library stacked on every available surface. The little girl took it all in with sharp, intelligent eyes, her head tilting as if she was sniffing the air. Maya shook off the strange observation and headed for the linen closet. Let's get you out of those wet clothes, sweetheart. I think I have something that might. Mommy? Maya spun around to find Tommy standing in the hallway, rubbing his eyes with one small fist. Her 6-year-old looked ridiculously young in his dinosaur pajamas, dark hair sticking up at impossible angles. Hey, baby. Maya's voice automatically softened. I thought you were staying at Mrs. Rodriguez's tonight. The storm woke me up, and she said I could come back if I wanted. Tommy's gaze shifted to the little girl, and his eyes widened. Who's that? This is. Maya paused, realizing she still didn't know the child's name. This is a little girl who needed help. She's going to stay with us tonight, just until we can find her family. Tommy approached with the fearless curiosity of childhood, stopping just in front of the silent girl. "Hi," he said solemnly. "I'm Tommy. What's your name?" The child studied him for a long moment, head still tilted at that odd angle. Then, to Maya's amazement, her lips curved in the faintest hint of a smile. "She doesn't talk much," Maya explained quickly. "She's probably scared." "That's okay." Tommy plopped down on the carpet in front of the girl with typical 6-year-old adaptability. "Sometimes I don't feel like talking either. Especially when there's big storms. Do you want to see my dinosaur book?" And just like that, the tension in the room began to ease. Tommy chattered away about velociraptors and triceratops while Maya bustled around finding dry clothes and towels. The little girl listened with grave attention, those golden eyes tracking Tommy's animated gestures. Maya had just pulled an old t-shirt of Tommy's from the drawer when she heard him say, "Wow, you smell really good. Like Christmas trees and campfires." She froze. "Tommy, that's not polite to." But when she turned around, the little girl was smiling, really smiling, for the first time since Maya had found her. It transformed her face completely, making her look like the child she was instead of some haunted waif from a gothic novel. "Come on, sweetheart," Maya said gently. "Let's get you cleaned up." In the tiny bathroom, Maya helped the child out of her ruined designer dress, trying not to gasp at what she found underneath. Scratches covered the little girl's arms and legs, not fresh, but not fully healed either. Red welts that looked suspiciously like rope burns circled her wrists. "What happened to you?" Maya wondered, her nurse's training cataloging each injury. "Who hurt you?" But as she cleaned the wounds with gentle efficiency, something strange happened. The scratches seemed to fade before her eyes, healing faster than should have been possible. Maya blinked hard, convinced the bathroom's harsh fluorescent light was playing tricks on her. "There," she said finally, helping the child into Tommy's oversized t-shirt. "Much better. Are you hungry? I could make some soup." The little girl shook her head but stayed close to Maya's side as they returned to the living room. Tommy had spread his art supplies across the coffee table and was already drawing what looked like a T-Rex eating a smaller dinosaur. "Do you want to draw too?" he asked the little girl. "Mommy says art helps when you're sad." For the first time, the child showed real interest. She picked up a crayon, forest green, and began to draw on Tommy's paper. But instead of dinosaurs or houses or stick figures like most children her age, she drew wolves. Detailed, realistic wolves with intelligent eyes and flowing tails. Wolves running through forests under a full moon. And in the center of the pack, a small wolf with golden eyes that looked remarkably familiar. "Wow," Tommy breathed. "You're really good at drawing wolves. Do you like wolves a lot?" The little girl nodded solemnly and added more details to her pack, shadows lurking at the edges of the forest, dark figures that seemed to watch the wolves with malevolent intent. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with her still damp scrubs. The child drew like someone who had seen these things, experienced them. Like someone who knew the difference between safety and danger in ways no 7-year-old should. "It's getting late," Maya said, though it was barely past 8. "Why don't we all have some hot chocolate and then we can decide on sleeping arrangements?" As she heated milk on the stove, Maya watched the little girl from the corner of her eye. The child had positioned herself near the living room window, close enough to see out but hidden behind the curtain. Every few minutes, she would peek through the glass at the parking lot below, her body tense with watchful alertness. Like she's expecting someone, Maya realized with growing unease. Someone she doesn't want to see. When Maya tried to take the wooden pendant to clean it properly, the little girl's reaction was swift and startling. A low growl rumbled from her throat, not quite human, not quite animal, and her small hands clamped protectively over the carved wolf. "It's okay," Maya said quickly, stepping back with her hands raised. "I won't touch it. I just wanted to make sure you weren't hurt." The growl faded, but the child's grip on the pendant remained fierce. Maya had heard enough unusual sounds in the ER to recognize protective instinct when she heard it, but something about that growl made her skin prickle with primitive awareness. "You're imagining things," she told herself firmly. "Traumatized children make all kinds of sounds. It doesn't mean anything." But as she served hot chocolate in mismatched mugs, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing something important. Something that might explain why a little girl in expensive clothes had been abandoned in an alley during the worst storm of the year. Something that might explain those unusual golden eyes and the way shadows seemed to follow them home. Maya woke to sunlight streaming through her bedroom window and the horrifying realization that she had overslept. The bedside clock read 9:47 a.m., which meant she was supposed to be at the hospital in 13 minutes for her morning shift. Shit. She grabbed her phone and speed-dialed the charge nurse, already calculating how much this would cost her. Taking a sick day meant losing 8 hours of pay, money she desperately needed. "Linda, it's Maya. I can't come in today. I have a family emergency." Not entirely a lie. The little girl was someone's family, even if Maya didn't know whose. "I know it's short notice. I'm sorry." Linda's sigh carried clearly through the phone. "Maya, you haven't taken a sick day in 18 months. Are you actually okay?" "I'm fine. There's a situation I need to handle. I'll be in tomorrow, I promise." After she hung up, Maya padded to the living room in her pajamas, expecting to find the little girl asleep on the couch. Instead, she found both children awake and drawing together at the coffee table, their dark heads bent over a piece of paper. "Good morning," Maya said, stifling a yawn. "You're up early." "She had a bad dream," Tommy explained matter-of-factly. "So I showed her how you make the monsters go away with pictures." Maya looked at their latest artwork and felt her breath catch. The little girl had drawn herself inside what looked like a cage, surrounded by dark figures with reaching hands. But Tommy had added elements of his own, a woman with kind eyes standing outside the cage, a little boy holding the woman's hand, and bright yellow rays that he'd labeled sunshine breaking through the darkness. "That's beautiful, baby," Maya said, ruffling Tommy's hair. "And very kind." The little girl looked up at Maya with those unsettling golden eyes and spoke her first word, "No." "No what, sweetheart?" The child pointed at the paper, then at Maya, then shook her head emphatically. "No," she repeated, and this time there was desperate urgency in her voice. Maya knelt beside the coffee table, studying the drawing more carefully. "You don't want me to call the police? Or child services?" "No." The word came out as almost a growl, and the little girl's hands clenched into fists. Maya exchanged a look with Tommy, who shrugged with 6-year-old wisdom. "Maybe she doesn't like strangers," he suggested. "I don't like talking to strangers either sometimes." "Okay," Maya said slowly. "No police." "Not yet. But honey, we need to find your family. They must be worried sick about you." The little girl's expression grew darker, and she grabbed a black crayon. With swift, angry strokes, she drew new figures around the cage, tall shapes with cruel faces and reaching claws. Then she pointed at these dark figures and said a single word that made Maya's blood run cold. "Family." "Oh, God." Maya sank back on her heels, understanding flooding through her. The expensive clothes torn and dirty. The injuries that looked like restraints. The terror in those golden eyes when shadows moved in the alley. Someone had hurt this child. Someone who should have protected her. "Sweetheart," Maya said carefully, "the people who hurt you, they're not your real family. Real families don't put little girls in cages." The child studied Maya's face intently, as if trying to decide whether to trust her. Then, slowly, she picked up the green crayon and began to draw again. This time, she drew a forest scene, tall trees under a star-filled sky, and in a clearing, a pack of wolves. But these wolves looked different from the menacing figures in her other drawings. These wolves had kind eyes and protective stances, surrounding a small golden-eyed wolf pup with obvious love. When she finished, the little girl pointed to the wolf pack, then to herself, then to Maya and Tommy. Your real family, Maya whispered, understanding. These are the people who love you. The child nodded solemnly, then added one more element to the drawing: dark shadows at the edge of the forest, held back by the protective circle of the wolf pack. Maya felt a chill of premonition. Whatever had happened to this little girl, whoever had taken her from her real family, it wasn't over. Those shadows weren't just metaphorical. As if summoned by her thoughts, Maya's gaze drifted to the living room window. Her heart nearly stopped. Parked across the street, where it definitely hadn't been the night before, sat a black sedan with tinted windows. As she watched, frozen with sudden terror, the driver's side window rolled down just enough for her to see the gleam of eyes watching her apartment. "Tommy," Maya said, her voice carefully calm, "why don't you take our friend to your room and show her your dinosaur collection?" "Okay." Tommy bounded up with typical enthusiasm. "Come on, I have a really cool T-Rex that roars when you press his belly." The little girl hesitated, looking between Maya and the window with sharp intelligence. She knew something was wrong. "It's okay," Maya assured her, though her hands were shaking. "Just for a few minutes." Once the children were safely in Tommy's room, Maya grabbed her phone and moved away from the window. She should call the police. She should call child services. She should call someone. But even as she scrolled through her contacts, Maya hesitated. The little girl's terrified "no" echoed in her mind, along with the dark figures in her drawings. What if the people looking for her had connections? What if involving the authorities just made things worse? The phone rang in her hand, making her jump. Unknown number. Maya stared at the screen, her heart hammering. It could be anyone, a telemarketer, a wrong number, someone from the hospital. It didn't have to be. On the fourth ring, she answered. "Hello?" Heavy breathing filled the line, deliberate and menacing. Then a voice, low and rough with barely controlled anger. "We know you have her. Give her back." The line went dead. Maya's phone slipped from nerveless fingers, clattering to the floor. Through the window, she could see the black sedan's engine starting, exhaust visible in the cool morning air. They weren't just watching anymore. They were coming. If you are enjoying this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more exciting story like this. Chapter 2. Gabriel Winters crouched in the shadow of an abandoned warehouse, his hands shaking as he pressed Luna's favorite stuffed rabbit to his face. 3 months. 3 months since that perfect spring afternoon when his world had shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. The rabbit still held traces of her scent, wildflowers and sunshine and that unique sweetness that belonged only to his daughter. But it was fading, just like every other trail he'd followed across 4 states. Just like his hope. "She's 7 years old," his wolf howled in the depths of his mind. "She's scared and alone and calling for her daddy, and you can't find her." Gabriel's jaw clenched as he forced the animal back into silence. He couldn't afford to lose control. Not when Victor Kane was still out there, still taking shifter children for his twisted experiments. Not when Luna might be. No. He wouldn't think it. Couldn't think it. Luna was alive. She had to be alive, because the alternative would destroy him completely. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, his beta and oldest friend. "Any leads? The pack is getting restless. They want to expand the search parties." Gabriel stared at the message but didn't respond. How could he explain that after 3 months of following false leads and cold trails, he was no closer to finding his daughter than he'd been the day she disappeared? How could he tell his pack, the wolves who looked to him for strength and guidance, that their alpha was failing at the most basic level? A father's duty to protect his child. The memory hit him like a physical blow, Luna laughing as she chased butterflies through the meadow during the pack's monthly gathering. Her small hand in his as they walked along the stream, her excited chatter about the tadpoles she discovered. The moment he'd turned away, just for a second, just to speak with Marcus about patrol schedules, and when he'd looked back, she was gone. The ransom note had been simple and terrifying: "We have the girl. She's unharmed for now. Do not involve human authorities or she dies." We will contact you. But no contact had come. No demands. No proof of life. Just silence that grew more ominous with each passing day. Gabriel had torn apart 3 states looking for her. He'd called in favors from every allied pack, followed every whispered rumor about rogue shifters and human traffickers. His own pack was beginning to question his leadership, wondering if grief had driven their alpha to madness. Maybe it had. A new scent caught his attention, cutting through the urban smog and gasoline fumes like a blade. Gabriel's head snapped up, nostrils flaring as he processed the familiar sweetness. Luna. His heart slammed against his ribs as he shot to his feet, following the trail with desperate intensity. It was faint, hours old, maybe a day, but it was definitely hers. Mixed with something else, something that made his wolf pace restlessly. A woman. Human, from the scent signature, but there was something unusual about her. Something that called to his shifter senses in a way that pure humans never did. The trail led him through the maze of Cedar Falls' older neighborhoods, past weathered apartment buildings and corner stores with barred windows. Gabriel forced himself to move carefully, to think like the alpha he was instead of the desperate father he'd become. If Luna was here, if she was with this unknown woman, he needed to assess the situation before acting. Was she a victim like Luna, or was she working with Victor? Had his daughter been sold to human traffickers, or had someone genuinely tried to help her? The questions burned through his mind as he followed the scent trail to a modest apartment complex on Maple Street. Second floor, Unit 2B. Gabriel positioned himself across the street, partially hidden behind a parked truck, and settled in to watch. He didn't have to wait long. Through the lit window, he saw her, a slender woman with shoulder-length black hair, moving around what looked like a small kitchen. Human, definitely, but there was something about the way she carried herself that spoke of strength and competence. A caregiver, his instincts told him. Someone used to taking care of others. And then he saw Luna. Gabriel's breath caught in his throat. His daughter sat at a small table, her dark hair longer than it had been 3 months ago, but otherwise unharmed. She was drawing, something she'd always loved, while a little boy chattered beside her. She's alive. The relief was so intense it nearly drove him to his knees. She's safe. But even as joy flooded through him, Gabriel's alpha instincts kicked in. Why hadn't the woman called the authorities? Why was Luna still here, days after she should have been reported as a found child? Was this some elaborate trap, or? The woman appeared in the window, looking directly at him. Gabriel froze, knowing he should move, should disappear back into the shadows. But something in her expression held him captive. Not the calculating look of someone in league with child traffickers, but the fierce protectiveness of a mother guarding her young. She was protecting Luna. From him. The realization should have enraged him. This human woman was keeping his daughter from him, probably filling Luna's head with lies about stranger danger. Every instinct screamed at him to shift, to tear through that flimsy door and reclaim what was his. But Luna was smiling. Through the window, Gabriel watched his daughter laugh at something the little boy said, her face bright with genuine happiness for the first time since before the kidnapping. Even from this distance, he could see the change in her posture, the way she leaned into the woman's gentle touches instead of flinching away. Someone had hurt his daughter, badly, from the look of things. And this unknown woman was helping her heal. Gabriel's phone buzzed again. Another text from Marcus. The pack needs answers, Gabe. How long are we going to keep searching blind? He stared at the message, then at the window where Luna was safe and happy and alive. Every fiber of his being demanded that he storm that apartment and take his daughter home. But what if moving too fast drove her away again? What if his desperation scared her back into hiding? Patience, he told himself, though the word tasted like ash in his mouth. Watch. Learn. Make sure she's really safe before you act. It was going to be the longest night of his life. Maya's hands shook as she poured coffee into her favorite mug, the one Tommy had painted for her last Mother's Day, complete with lopsided flowers and the words, "Best Mom Ever," in crayon bright letters. The normalcy of the morning routine felt surreal after the horror of that phone call. "We know you have her. Give her back." She'd barely slept, jumping at every sound in the hallway, every car door slamming in the parking lot. The black sedan had disappeared sometime during the night, but Maya knew it would be back. They were watching, waiting for the right moment to take Luna. "Mommy?" Tommy appeared in the kitchen doorway, still wearing his dinosaur pajamas. "Is Luna still sleeping?" "I think so, baby." Maya forced a smile. "Why don't you get dressed, and we'll go to the grocery store? We need to pick up some things for lunch." What she really needed was to get out of the apartment, to see if they were still being followed. Maybe she was paranoid, but Maya would rather be paranoid and safe than trusting and dead. An hour later, as she pushed a cart through the produce section of Miller's Market with both children in tow, Maya's worst fears were confirmed. The black sedan sat in the parking lot like a patient predator, and she could feel eyes tracking their every movement through the store. "Stay close," she murmured to Tommy, who was debating the merits of red versus green apples with Luna. "Don't wander off." Luna looked up at her with those unsettling golden eyes, and Maya saw understanding there. The child knew they were being hunted. Worse, she was positioning herself between Maya and Tommy and any potential threats, her small body tense with protective alertness. What kind of life has she lived, Maya wondered with growing horror, that a 7-year-old knows how to be a bodyguard? They made it home without incident, but Maya's relief was short-lived. As she was unpacking groceries, the buzzer for the apartment building's front door rang through the intercom. "Ms. Chen? This is Sarah Blackwood from Child Protective Services. I need to speak with you about the child in your care." Maya's blood turned to ice water. She hadn't called CPS. She hadn't called anyone. Which meant someone else had reported Luna, someone who knew exactly where to find them. "Just a minute," Maya called, then frantically gestured for the children to go to Tommy's room. Luna was already moving, her face pale with terror, but Tommy looked confused. "Why does Luna look scared?" he whispered. "Just go, baby. Please. Stay with Luna and keep her calm." Maya buzzed Ms. Blackwood up, then spent the longest 30 seconds of her life arranging her face into an expression of innocent cooperation. When the knock came, she opened the door to find a woman in her 40s with steel-gray hair and calculating eyes. "Ms. Chen? Thank you for agreeing to see me." Ms. Blackwood stepped into the apartment without waiting for an invitation, her gaze immediately scanning the room like a predator searching for weaknesses. "I understand you've taken in a child who was found under unusual circumstances." "I found a little girl in an alley during the storm," Maya said carefully. "She seemed lost and scared, so I brought her home. I was planning to call your office today." "Of course you were." Ms. Blackwood's smile was sharp-edged. "And where is the child now?" "She's shy around strangers." "Would you like some coffee while I get her?" "That won't be necessary. I just need to see her briefly." Ms. Blackwood's voice carried an undertone of authority that made Maya's skin crawl. "I'm sure you understand, Ms. Chen, we have protocols to follow when children are found in unusual circumstances." There was something in the way she said unusual that made Maya's maternal instinct scream warnings. This woman wasn't here to help Luna. She was here to take her. "Luna?" Maya called softly. "Sweetheart, can you come out here for just a minute?" Silence. Maya tried again, adding gentle reassurance to her voice. "It's okay, baby. This lady just wants to make sure you're all right." Still nothing. Maya excused herself and went to Tommy's room, finding both children huddled together behind the bed. Luna was shaking, her golden eyes wide with the kind of terror Maya had only seen in trauma victims. "She won't come out," Maya told Ms. Blackwood when she returned to the living room. "She's been through something terrible. Maybe if you came back tomorrow, after she's had more time to adjust." "I'm afraid that's not possible." Ms. Blackwood's expression hardened. "Ms. Chen, I'm going to need you to produce the child immediately, or I'll have to call the authorities." The threat hung in the air between them like a blade. Maya felt the trap closing around her, damned if she cooperated, damned if she didn't. The child has unusual physical characteristics, doesn't she? Ms. Blackwood continued, her voice taking on an almost hungry quality. Golden eyes, perhaps? Unusually sharp teeth. A pendant she refuses to remove? Maya's heart stopped. There was no way this woman could know those details unless she'd been watching them, or unless she was working with whoever had taken Luna in the first place. I think you should leave, Maya said quietly. Ms. Chen, I'm trying to help. No, you're not. Maya moved to the door and opened it. You're trying to take a traumatized child from the first safe place she's found. And I won't let that happen. Ms. Blackwood's mask of professional concern slipped, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. You're making a mistake, Ms. Chen. The child doesn't belong with you. Her family is very concerned about her welfare. Then her family can come forward through proper channels. Until then, she stays with me. After Ms. Blackwood left, Maya double-locked the door and slumped against it, her legs shaking with reaction. Luna appeared in the hallway, no longer hiding, and Maya saw something in those golden eyes that chilled her to the bone. Recognition. Luna knew exactly who Ms. Blackwood was. And she was terrified of her. Why does Luna have such sharp teeth? Tommy asked that afternoon as they sat in the small playground behind their apartment complex. Maya looked up from the book she was pretending to read, mostly she was scanning the area for threats, and saw Tommy studying Luna with scientific 6-year-old curiosity. Luna was perched on the swing beside him, not swinging but maintaining a watchful guard over their little group. Some people just have different teeth, baby, Maya said carefully. And why do her eyes glow sometimes? Like a cat's? Maya felt that familiar chill of unease. She'd been trying to dismiss the unusual things about Luna, the too fast healing, the animal-like reflexes, the way she seemed to sense things before they happened. But Tommy, with a child's brutal honesty, was voicing what Maya hadn't wanted to acknowledge. Luna wasn't quite human. Tommy, Maya said gently, what do you think about Luna? I mean, how does she make you feel? Tommy considered this with the seriousness he applied to all important questions. Safe, he said finally. Like she'd fight monsters for us if she had to. And she smells really good, like when Daddy used to take us camping. Maya's throat tightened at the mention of David. Her husband had loved the outdoors, had planned to teach Tommy to fish and hike and build campfires. All the things he'd never get to do. She does smell like the forest, Maya agreed softly. Like wild places. As if summoned by their conversation, Luna slipped off her swing and came to sit beside Maya on the bench. Without a word, she pulled out the small sketchpad Maya had bought her and began to draw. This time, the picture showed 3 figures, clearly Maya, Tommy, and Luna herself, standing together in a circle of light. Around them, threatening shadows pressed close, but they couldn't penetrate the protective barrier the 3 of them created together. Is that us? Tommy asked, leaning over to look. Luna nodded and pointed to the shadows, then made a slashing motion across her throat. The message was clear, the shadows wanted to hurt them, but as long as they stayed together, they were safe. Who are the shadows, sweetheart? Maya asked gently. Luna's expression darkened. She flipped to a new page and drew quickly, her small hands moving with desperate urgency. This picture showed a tall man with cruel eyes and reaching claws, surrounded by other dark figures. At the bottom of the page, she wrote a single word in shaky letters. Victor. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. Is that the person who hurt you? Luna nodded, then drew another figure, a woman with steel-gray hair and calculating eyes. Ms. Blackwood. They worked together, Maya whispered, understanding flooding through her. She's not really from Child Services, is she? Luna shook her head emphatically, then grabbed Maya's hand and squeezed tight. Her message was clear, don't let them take me. I won't, Maya promised, though she had no idea how she was going to keep that vow. I promise, sweetheart. I won't let anyone hurt you. But even as she spoke the words, Maya caught sight of a familiar black sedan pulling into the parking lot. This time, it wasn't alone. Two more cars followed, parking in a semicircle that effectively blocked the playground's only exit. "Tommy," Maya said, her voice carefully calm, "I need you and Luna to go behind the big oak tree and stay very still. Can you do that for me?" "But Mommy." "Now, Tommy. Please." Both children scrambled for the tree, Luna's protective instincts kicking in as she positioned herself between Tommy and the approaching cars. Maya stood up slowly, her heart hammering against her ribs. Three men emerged from the vehicles, dressed in dark suits that screamed government or corporate security. They moved with predatory grace, spreading out to surround the playground with military precision. Maya had nowhere to run. Gabriel had been watching Maya's apartment from his position across the street when he saw them leave for the playground. Something about the woman's posture, tense, alert, constantly scanning for threats, told him she knew she was being hunted. Good. That would make his job easier when the time came to approach her. A paranoid human was a careful human, and careful humans were more likely to listen to reason. But when the black sedan appeared, followed by two more vehicles, Gabriel's blood turned to liquid fire. Victor's men. They'd found Luna first. Gabriel was moving before conscious thought kicked in, his human form blurring as he called on his shifter speed. He couldn't shift completely, not in broad daylight, not where humans might see, but he could enhance his natural abilities enough to cross the distance in seconds. Through the playground's chain-link fence, he saw Maya standing between the approaching men and the oak tree where Luna was hidden. Even outgunned and outmanned, the human woman wasn't backing down. "She's protecting my daughter," Gabriel realized with a mixture of gratitude and growing respect. A complete stranger is willing to die for Luna. One of Victor's men, Gabriel recognized him as Collins, a former military contractor with a reputation for violence, was speaking to Maya in low, threatening tones. Gabriel couldn't hear the words, but he could see Maya's response, chin lifted in defiance, arms crossed, every line of her body radiating refusal. Collins reached into his jacket. Gabriel vaulted the fence. He hit the playground running, his enhanced senses cataloging every detail in microseconds. Three men, armed, positioned to prevent escape. Maya standing her ground despite impossible odds. And behind the oak tree, two small heartbeats racing with terror. "Step away from the woman," Gabriel commanded, his voice carrying the alpha authority that had never failed to command obedience. All three men turned, hands moving toward weapons with practiced ease. But something in Gabriel's presence, the predatory stillness, the complete absence of fear, the way he moved like violence barely leashed, made them hesitate. "This is none of your business," Collins said, but his voice held a note of uncertainty. "The woman and children are under my protection," Gabriel replied, moving to stand beside Maya. "That makes it very much my business." He felt Maya's shock at his sudden appearance, heard her sharp intake of breath, but she didn't back down. If anything, his presence seemed to strengthen her resolve. "We just want the girl," Collins continued, his hand now resting openly on his weapon. "Give us the girl, and no one gets hurt." "No," Maya said firmly. "You're not taking her." Gabriel felt a surge of admiration for the human woman's courage. She had no idea who he was, no reason to trust him, but she was still willing to stand beside him against impossible odds. "Your choice," Collins said, and drew his gun. Gabriel was already moving, his shifter reflexes carrying him forward faster than human eyes could follow. His hand closed around Collins' wrist, applying just enough pressure to make the man drop his weapon with a cry of pain. The other two men reached for their guns, but they never got the chance to draw them. Because Luna stepped out from behind the oak tree, her golden eyes blazing with supernatural light, and growled. It wasn't a human sound. It wasn't even close to human. It was the warning call of an apex predator protecting her territory, and it froze all three men in their tracks with primitive, instinctive terror. "Luna," Gabriel whispered, his voice breaking with 3 months of suppressed anguish. She turned toward him, those familiar golden eyes widening with recognition and desperate hope. "Daddy?" The word hung in the air like a prayer and a miracle all rolled into one. Gabriel dropped to his knees as Luna flew into his arms, her small body shaking with sobs of relief and joy. "I'm here, baby girl," he whispered against her hair, his own voice rough with unshed tears. "Daddy's here. I found you. I finally found you." Maya stared at them in shock, the pieces of the puzzle finally clicking into place. The man who'd appeared out of nowhere to defend them. Luna's recognition. The way she'd called him Daddy with such desperate relief. This was Luna's father. The one she'd been drawing in her pictures, the one who'd been searching for her. Collins and his men were backing away, their earlier confidence evaporating in the face of Gabriel's protective fury and Luna's inhuman growl. Whatever they'd been told to expect, it wasn't this. "This isn't over," Collins called as they retreated to their vehicles. "Victor wants the girl. He'll keep coming." "Let him come," Gabriel snarled, his voice carrying undertones that made Maya's skin prickle with awareness. "I'll be ready." The black cars disappeared, but Maya barely noticed. She was too busy staring at the man kneeling in the playground, holding Luna like she was the most precious thing in the world. He was tall and lean, with dark hair and intense hazel eyes that seemed to glow with their own inner light. There was something wild about him, something that spoke of forests and moonlight and things that hunted in the darkness. But when he looked at Luna, when he touched her with such infinite gentleness, Maya saw only a father's desperate love. "You found me," Luna whispered against his chest. "I knew you would find me." "Always," Gabriel promised. "I will always find you, no matter what." Tommy had crept out from behind the tree, his eyes wide with curiosity rather than fear. "Are you really Luna's daddy?" he asked with 6-year-old directness. Gabriel looked up at him, and Maya saw the moment he recognized Tommy as someone important to Luna. "I am," he said gently. "And you must be Tommy. Luna's told me about you." "She has?" Tommy beamed with pride. "We're best friends now. And Maya takes really good care of her. She makes the best hot chocolate in the whole world." Gabriel's gaze shifted to Maya, and she felt the weight of his assessment. Those hazel eyes seemed to see straight through her, cataloging every detail, every strength and weakness. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For taking care of her. For protecting her when I couldn't." Maya found her voice at last. "How do I know you're really her father? How do I know you're not working with those men?" It was Luna who answered, pulling back from Gabriel's embrace to look at Maya with those unsettling golden eyes. "He smells like home," she said simply. "Like pack and safety and love." Maya stared at the little girl, then at the man who claimed to be her father. There were so many questions, so many impossible things that needed explanation. But as she watched Gabriel hold Luna like she was his entire world, as she saw the way Luna melted into his arms with complete trust and relief, Maya knew the truth. This was Luna's real family. This was where she belonged. The only question now was what that meant for Maya and Tommy, and whether they were all strong enough to survive whatever Victor had planned next. If you are enjoying this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more exciting story like this. Chapter 3. Luna's small body shook against Gabriel's chest, 3 months of terror and longing pouring out in broken sobs that tore at Maya's heart. The little girl clung to her father like he might disappear again, her fingers twisted in his shirt with desperate strength. I thought they took you too," Luna gasped between tears. "When they came in the night, when they put the needle in my arm, I called for you but you didn't come." "Shoo, baby girl." Gabriel's voice cracked as he smoothed her dark hair. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. But I never stopped looking. Never stopped hunting for you." Maya watched this reunion with growing unease, her protective instincts warring with the obvious love between father and daughter. Luna's relief was genuine, no child could fake that kind of desperate joy. But 3 months of silence raised questions that demanded answers. "Where have you been?" Maya's voice came out sharper than she'd intended. "Your daughter was taken 3 months ago, and you're just finding her now?" Gabriel's hazel eyes flashed with something that wasn't quite human, a golden gleam that reminded Maya uncomfortably of Luna's unusual gaze. When he looked at her, she felt the weight of a predator's attention, wild and barely leashed. "I've been searching every day since she disappeared," he said, his voice carrying an undertone of controlled fury. "4 states. Dozens of leads. I've barely slept, barely eaten. You think I wasn't trying hard enough?" "I think any normal father would have gone to the police," Maya shot back, maternal protectiveness making her bold. "I think any normal father would have had the FBI, the media, everyone looking for his missing child. What kind of man handles a kidnapping alone?" Tommy tugged at Maya's scrubs, his small face creased with worry. "Mommy, why are you being mean to Luna's daddy? She's happy now." Before Maya could answer, Luna pulled back from Gabriel's embrace, her golden eyes bright with tears. "He couldn't call the police," she whispered. "Victor said he'd kill me if Daddy told any humans. He said he had people everywhere, people who would make me disappear forever if the police came looking." Maya felt her anger deflate like a punctured balloon. She knelt beside the little girl, her voice gentling. "Sweetheart, who is Victor? What did he want with you?" Luna's small hands clenched into fists, and Maya caught a glimpse of something that made her blink hard. For just a moment, Luna's fingernails had looked longer, sharper, almost like claws. "He wanted to cut me open," Luna said in a voice too matter-of-fact for a 7-year-old. "To see what made me different. He had other children there, in the bad place. Children like me." Gabriel's face went white, his hands trembling as he reached for his daughter. "Luna, what do you mean, like you? What did he do to you?" But Luna was looking at Maya now, those unsettling golden eyes filled with desperate need. "Maya kept me safe," she said fiercely. "She didn't ask questions. She didn't try to change me. She just loved me." The simple statement hit Maya like a physical blow. In 3 days, this strange, frightened child had somehow burrowed straight into her heart, filling an emptiness she hadn't even known existed. Gabriel's expression softened as he looked between Maya and Luna. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I don't know how to repay what you've done for her." "You don't need to repay anything," Maya replied, though her voice was still guarded. "But I need to understand what's happening here. Those men who came after her, they're not going to stop, are they?" Gabriel's jaw tightened. "No. Victor Kane doesn't give up easily. He's invested too much in his research to let Luna go." "Research into what?" Gabriel hesitated, and Maya saw him wrestling with some internal decision. Finally, he seemed to come to a conclusion that cost him. "Research into people like us," he said simply. "People who are different." Maya was about to demand a clearer explanation when Luna's emotional control finally shattered completely. The little girl let out a wail of anguish that sounded more animal than human, and Maya watched in shock as Luna's eyes blazed with supernatural light. The golden glow was unmistakable now, bright enough to cast shadows in the afternoon sunlight. But it was Luna's teeth that made Maya's breath catch, no longer the normal canines of a 7-year-old, but sharp, elongated fangs that belonged on a predator. "Luna," Gabriel said urgently, gathering his daughter close. "You need to calm down, baby girl. You need to pull it back." "I can't." Luna sobbed, her voice distorting strangely. "I was so scared, Daddy. They hurt me, and I couldn't change, couldn't fight back because of the collar." "What collar?" Gabriel's voice turned deadly quiet. Luna touched her throat, where Maya could now see faint marks like old burns. "Silver," Luna whispered. "It burned me and made me weak. Made me human." Maya stumbled backward, her mind reeling. "That's not, children don't." But even as denial formed on her lips, Maya watched Luna's distress trigger more changes. The little girl's fingernails elongated into definite claws, and her ears seemed to shift subtly, becoming more pointed. Tommy, meanwhile, was staring at Luna with fascination rather than fear. "Wow," he breathed. "You really are like a wolf, aren't you? That's so cool." "Tommy, get behind me," Maya ordered shakily. "Maya." Gabriel's voice was gentle but firm. "She's not dangerous." She's just a frightened child who's been through hell. She has claws, Maya pointed out, her voice rising with hysteria. And fangs. And eyes that glow in the dark. Children don't have those things. Gabriel sighed, running a hand through his hair. No. Human children don't. But Luna isn't fully human, Maya. Neither am I. He stepped closer, moving with that predatory grace Maya had noticed earlier. We're shapeshifters. Werewolves, if you want to use the old terms. We're born with the ability to take both human and wolf form. Maya shook her head violently. That's impossible. That's mythology. That's... Gabriel's eyes flashed gold, just like Luna's. For a moment, his features seemed to shift subtly, cheekbones more prominent, jaw more angular, teeth just a bit too sharp. Then he was human again, but the message was clear. It's real, he said quietly. We're real. And we're not monsters, Maya. We're just people with a dual nature. Dual nature, Maya repeated faintly. You turn into wolves. Among other things, yes. Maya's nursing training kicked in, the part of her mind that dealt with medical impossibilities on a daily basis. She'd seen enough unexplainable recoveries, enough cases that defied conventional wisdom, to know that the world held more mysteries than most people wanted to acknowledge. But this was beyond mysterious. This was terrifying. Tommy, she said carefully, not taking her eyes off Gabriel and Luna. Come here, baby. But Mommy, Luna's not scary anymore. Look, she's changing back. Maya looked, and saw that Tommy was right. Luna's fangs were retracting, her claws shortening back to normal fingernails. The golden glow in her eyes dimmed to a more natural color, though they remained that unusual shade. Better? Luna asked hopefully, looking up at Maya with desperate need for acceptance. Maya stared at the little girl, this impossible, supernatural child who had somehow wound her way into Maya's heart over the past 3 days. Luna was still the same frightened, brave, loving child who had drawn pictures to communicate and growled protectively when Maya was threatened. Being a werewolf didn't change that. Better, Maya agreed shakily. But Luna, sweetheart, I need to understand something. Are Tommy and I safe? I mean, if you get upset again, if you change. She would never hurt you, Gabriel said with absolute certainty. Shifter children have complete control over their protective instincts. Luna would die before she'd harm someone she considers family. Family. The word hit Maya like a revelation. In 3 days, Luna had somehow become family. And if Luna was family, and Luna was part of something larger, something impossible. What does this mean? Maya asked quietly. For Tommy? For me? Are we in danger just by knowing about you? Gabriel's expression grew grim. Victor Kane would kill you both without hesitation if he thought you were a threat to his research. He's already shown he's willing to kidnap children. Adults who know too much. He shrugged grimly. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. So we're trapped. We can't go back to our normal lives because we know too much. We can't go to the authorities because they won't believe us. And we can't stay here because those men will keep coming. Not trapped, Gabriel corrected. Protected. My pack will keep you safe. Your pack. My family. Other shifters like us. We take care of our own, Maya. And Luna has claimed you as family, which means you're under our protection now. Luna had been listening to this exchange with growing distress, her small hands clenched in Gabriel's shirt. Now she pulled out her sketch pad with trembling fingers and began to draw with desperate urgency. Luna, what are you? Gabriel began, then stopped as he saw what she was creating. The drawing showed a sterile room with metal tables and bright lights. On the tables lay small figures, children, with tubes and wires attached to their bodies. In the corner, a tall man in a white coat took notes while other figures in dark clothing stood guard. There were 6 of us at first, Luna whispered as she drew. 6 children like me. Victor said we were special, that we could help him make more people like us. Gabriel's face went ashen. Luna, where are the other children now? Luna flipped to a new page and drew another scene, empty cages with broken locks, blood on white floors, and shadowy figures carrying small, still forms. Some got sick and went away. Some tried to escape and... Luna's voice trailed off, but the implication was clear. Jesus Christ, Gabriel whispered, his voice raw with horror. Maya felt sick. He's experimenting on shifter children? Trying to create artificial werewolves? That's what Victor does, Gabriel said grimly. He captures supernatural beings, shifters, mostly, and tries to replicate our abilities through science. He's been at it for decades. But why children? Maya's voice cracked with anguish. Because children's bodies are still developing. He thinks he can modify our genetics more easily in young subjects. Gabriel's hands clenched into fists. He's a monster who hides behind the name of science. Luna began drawing again, this time showing herself in a cage with a silver collar around her neck. Nearby cages held other children, some human, some clearly displaying shifter characteristics. All of them looked terrified and hopeless. I tried to help them, Luna said in a small voice. But the collar made me weak. Made me just human. I couldn't break the bars or fight the guards. It's not your fault, baby, Gabriel said fiercely, gathering her close. You were brave just by surviving. You did nothing wrong. But Maya could see the guilt eating at him, the knowledge that while he'd been searching desperately for Luna, other children had been suffering and dying in Victor's laboratory. Where is this place? Maya asked. Can we find it? Can we save the others? Gabriel looked at her with surprise and growing respect. You want to help? Even knowing how dangerous it would be? They're children, Maya said simply. Someone has to help them. Luna looked up at her with those golden eyes shining with hope. There are 3 left, she whispered. A boy named Marcus who can turn into a bear. Twin girls who become foxes. They're still there, still trapped. Then we find them, Maya said with grim determination. And we bring them home. They might have had more time to plan if Victor's men hadn't been faster than Gabriel anticipated. Maya was just beginning to process the implications of shifters and pack loyalty when her phone rang with the distinctive tone she'd assigned to Cedar Falls General Hospital. Maya, thank God. Linda's voice was strained with panic. There are men here looking for you. Official-looking types with badges, but something feels wrong. They're asking about a child you allegedly kidnapped. Maya's blood turned to ice. Linda, listen to me very carefully. Those men are not police officers. They're dangerous. Don't tell them anything. Maya, what's going on? They have a warrant. The line went dead. Gabriel was already moving, his enhanced senses picking up threats that Maya couldn't detect. They've tracked us, he said grimly. Victor's people. They're not just at the hospital, they're converging on this location. How can you know that? Maya demanded, even as she was grabbing Tommy's hand and pulling him close. I can smell them. Hear their vehicles. Gabriel's eyes flashed gold. We need to move. Now. Luna was suddenly at Maya's side, her small hand surprisingly strong as she tugged toward the playground's back exit. This way, she whispered urgently. They're coming from the front. They ran through the residential streets behind the playground, Gabriel leading with predatory confidence while Luna brought up the rear like a tiny guardian. Maya's mind reeled as she tried to process how a 7-year-old could move with such tactical awareness. Because she's not just a 7-year-old, Maya realized. She's a young predator who survived 3 months in hell. They made it 6 blocks before Gabriel suddenly stopped, his head tilted as if listening to something Maya couldn't hear. They've surrounded the hospital, he said grimly. They're using it as a base of operations. I have to warn Linda, Maya said, reaching for her phone. Maya, no. But it was too late. The phone was already ringing, and when Linda answered, Her voice was tight with terror. Maya, wherever you are, don't come here. Those men, they're not human. I saw one of them move impossibly fast, and another one's eyes glowed in the dark. What have you gotten involved in? Linda, get out of there, Maya said urgently. Use the service tunnels. Get to the parking garage and... A new voice came on the line, cold and cultured. Ms. Chen. This is Dr. Victor Kane. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Maya felt Luna go rigid beside her, the little girl's face draining of all color. I don't know what you're talking about, Maya said, proud that her voice stayed steady. Of course you do. A certain golden-eyed child who has caused me considerable inconvenience. Return her to me, and your friend here won't suffer the same fate as the last person who interfered with my work. Gabriel grabbed the phone from Maya's hand. Kane. Ah, Gabriel Winters. Still playing the protective father, I see. How touching. How futile. If you hurt one hair on that woman's head. You'll what? Tear through my facility like the animal you are? We both know how well that worked last time. Gabriel's face went white, and Maya realized there was history here, painful, personal history. The child comes to me willingly, or everyone you care about dies, Victor continued. You have 1 hour. The line went dead. Luna was trembling now, her eyes wide with terror. He has Linda, she whispered. Just like he had the others. And it's my fault. No, Maya said fiercely, kneeling to take Luna's face in her hands. This is not your fault. This is Victor's fault for being a monster. Gabriel was already moving, his body coiled with barely contained violence. I'm going after them. Not alone, Maya said, surprising herself with her determination. I know that hospital better than anyone. I know the service tunnels, the security protocols, the emergency procedures. Maya, this isn't your fight. The hell it isn't. He threatened Linda. He's holding her because of me. That makes it my fight. Tommy tugged at Maya's scrubs. What about me, Mommy? Where do I go? Luna stepped forward before Maya could answer. You stay with me, she said solemnly. I'll protect you. Luna, you're just a child, Gabriel began. I'm a shifter child who survived 3 months in Victor's lab, Luna corrected with startling maturity. I know his people, his methods, his weaknesses. Tommy will be safer with me than anywhere else. Looking at Luna's golden eyes, seeing the steel beneath the childlike exterior, Maya realized the little girl was right. Whatever Victor had done to her, whatever she'd endured, it had forged her into something stronger than her 7 years should have allowed. Okay, Maya said. But we do this smart. We plan. We use every advantage we have. Gabriel looked at her with growing admiration. You're sure about this? Once we move against Victor, there's no going back to your normal life. Maya thought about Linda, terrified and trapped. She thought about the other children still in Victor's cages. She thought about Luna, who had somehow become as important to her as her own son. My normal life ended the moment I found Luna in that alley, she said quietly. I just didn't know it yet. The attack on Cedar Falls General Hospital began an hour later, but not the way Victor expected. Maya led them through the service tunnel she'd learned during her 8 years at the hospital, moving through maintenance areas that most staff didn't even know existed. Gabriel's enhanced senses guided them past Victor's sentries, while Luna's small size allowed her to scout ahead through ventilation systems. They found Linda in the pediatric ward, tied to a chair and guarded by 2 of Victor's men. But it was clearly a trap, too easy, too obvious. They want us to come to them, Gabriel murmured as they watched from the stairwell. Then let's give them what they want, Maya replied, but not how they expect it. She triggered the hospital's emergency lockdown protocol from the security office, sealing most of the building and activating the fire suppression system. In the chaos that followed, Gabriel moved like a force of nature, not fully shifting, but calling on enough of his wolf nature to become something beyond human. Maya watched in fascination and terror as he moved through Victor's men with supernatural speed and strength, incapacitating rather than killing, but leaving no doubt about his lethal capabilities. Luna's contribution was subtler but no less effective. Her enhanced hearing allowed her to warn them of approaching enemies, and her small size let her manipulate the hospital systems in ways the adults couldn't. Tommy, meanwhile, proved that courage ran in the family by helping Maya trigger fire alarms and security alerts that sent Victor's people scrambling in confusion. They freed Linda and were fighting their way toward the exit when Victor himself appeared, flanked by a dozen armed men. "Enough," he said calmly, his voice cutting through the chaos. "The child comes with me, or everyone dies." Starting with the nurse. One of his men pressed a gun to Linda's temple. Luna stepped forward, her small chin raised defiantly. "I'll come with you," she said. "But you let them go." "All of them." "Luna, no," Gabriel snarled, but she was already walking toward Victor. "It's okay, Daddy," she said softly. "I know something you don't know." Before anyone could react, Luna's eyes blazed with golden light, and she let out a howl that shattered every window in the pediatric ward. It wasn't just any howl. It was a pack call, a summons that every shifter within 50 miles would hear and understand. Help was coming. The sound of Luna's pack call still echoed through the hospital corridors when Gabriel heard the answering howls in the distance. His pack, his family, racing to respond to their alpha's daughter in distress. "Move," he roared, scooping Luna up as Victor's men scattered in confusion. The golden-eyed child had bought them precious minutes, but they needed to be gone before Victor regrouped. Maya grabbed Tommy and followed Gabriel through the maze of hospital corridors, Linda close behind them despite her obvious terror and confusion. Luna's howl had shattered more than windows, it had shattered the careful secrecy that kept the supernatural world hidden from human eyes. The parking garage, Maya panted as they ran. "My car." "No good," Gabriel said grimly. "They'll have it surrounded." "We go up." He led them to the hospital's helipad, where Maya's nursing training finally proved useful. She knew the access codes, the security protocols, the blind spots in the camera coverage. As they reached the roof, the sound of motorcycles filled the night air. Gabriel's pack, 6 wolves in human form, riding like the hounds of hell, roared into the hospital parking lot just as Victor's men poured out of the building. "Marcus will handle Victor's people," Gabriel said with grim satisfaction. "But we can't stay. Victor will bring more men, more resources. The hospital isn't safe anymore." "Where do we go?" Maya asked, clutching Tommy close as the battle raged below them. "My cabin. In the mountains. It's warded against human detection, old magic that Victor can't track." They escaped in a stolen hospital transport, driving through winding mountain roads as dawn broke over the peaks. Luna curled up between Maya and Tommy, exhausted by her ordeal but finally, truly safe. Gabriel's cabin was nothing like Maya had expected. Instead of a primitive hunting lodge, she found a beautiful home built into the mountainside, its windows offering spectacular views of the valley below. Solar panels and modern amenities blended seamlessly with rustic stone and timber. "Home," Luna sighed, breathing deeply as they entered. "It smells like pack and safety." Tommy was immediately fascinated by everything: the massive stone fireplace, the library filled with books on subjects Maya couldn't pronounce, the photographs of wolves that seemed almost too lifelike. "Are those your family?" Tommy asked Gabriel, pointing to a picture of a wolf pack running through moonlit trees. "Yes," Gabriel said simply. "Taken during our last moon run." Maya stared at the photograph, finally beginning to understand the reality of what Gabriel and Luna were. Not monsters or fairy tale creatures, but people with a connection to something wild and ancient that most humans had forgotten. Luna had fallen asleep on the couch, clutching her wooden pendant and looking more peaceful than Maya had ever seen her. The terror was gone from her face, replaced by the simple exhaustion of a child who was finally, truly safe. "She can sleep now," Gabriel said softly, settling a blanket around his daughter. "For the first time in 3 months, she doesn't have to be afraid." Maya watched him with growing respect and understanding. This man had moved heaven and earth to find his daughter, had risked everything to protect her. The love between them was evident in every gentle touch, every whispered word. "I owe you an apology," Maya said quietly. "For doubting you. For thinking you hadn't tried hard enough." Gabriel looked at her with those intense hazel eyes. "You were protecting her. I can't fault you for that. What happens now? To Linda? To Tommy and me? We can't go back to our old lives. Linda will be fine. Marcus will make sure Victor's people believe she was just an innocent bystander. But you and Tommy..." Gabriel hesitated. "Maya, you've seen too much. You know too much. Victor will never stop hunting you. So we're prisoners here? Protected but trapped. Or," Gabriel said carefully, "you could choose to become part of something larger. Part of the pack." Maya felt her breath catch. "You mean become like you? Become shifters?" "No. You'd still be human. But pack doesn't have to mean blood or species. It means family. Protection. Belonging to something that will never abandon you." As Maya considered his words, Tommy called out from across the room where he'd been exploring Gabriel's library. "Mommy, look at this." He was holding an old leather journal, its pages yellowed with age. "It has your grandma's name in it." Maya's heart stopped. She crossed the room with trembling hands and took the journal from Tommy. On the inside cover, written in familiar handwriting, were the words, "Property of Elena Chen, keeper of the old ways." "That's impossible," Maya whispered. "My grandmother died when I was 12. She lived in San Francisco. She was just normal." Gabriel looked at the journal with interest. "Where did you find this?" "On the shelf with all the other old books," Tommy said, then pointed to another section of the library. "There are more with different names. Lots and lots of them." Maya opened the journal with shaking hands and read the first entry. "The wolves came to me in a dream again. They say the time of hiding is ending, that the old alliances between human and shifter will be needed once more. My granddaughter Maya doesn't know about our family's true heritage yet, doesn't know that her ancestors were keepers, guardians of the boundary between the human and supernatural worlds. But she will learn. The wolves have shown me her path, and it leads to a golden-eyed child who will need her strength." Maya's hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold the journal. "This was written 15 years ago," she whispered. "Before Tommy was born. Before I became a nurse. Before I ever heard of shifters." Gabriel's expression was grave. "Your grandmother was a keeper. Part of an ancient bloodline that served as bridges between our worlds. Maya, finding Luna wasn't an accident. It was destiny." Maya looked at Luna, sleeping peacefully on the couch. At Tommy, excitedly pulling more journals from the shelves. At Gabriel, whose hazel eyes held depths of wisdom and wildness that spoke of moonlit forests and ancient loyalties. Everything in her logical, medical-trained mind said this was impossible. But her heart recognized the truth. She had found her family. Her real family. And they were so much stranger and more wonderful than she had ever imagined. Outside the cabin windows, the mountain peaks caught the first light of dawn, and Maya Chen began the first day of her new life, a life where impossible things were simply Tuesday, and love came with golden eyes and silver moonlight. The battle with Victor Kane was far from over. But for the first time since this all began, Maya felt ready to face whatever came next. She was Pack now. And Pack protected their own. If you are enjoying this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more exciting story like this. Chapter 4. Gabriel's mountain home revealed itself in the morning light like something from a fairy tale, if fairy tales included solar panels and satellite internet alongside hand-carved timber and natural stone. The cabin sprawled across 3 levels built into the mountainside, its wide windows offering breathtaking views of the valley below while maintaining the feeling of a wolf's den carved from living rock. "This is the kitchen," Luna said proudly, leading Maya and Tommy through rooms that somehow managed to be both rustic and sophisticated. Viking appliances gleamed beside a massive farmhouse sink, while bundles of herbs hung from hand-hewn beams that probably predated the Civil War. Daddy cooks really good pancakes. He puts blueberries in them. Maya watched Gabriel move around his kitchen with easy competence, and she found herself cataloging details that spoke of a man comfortable in his dual nature. Copper pots hung within easy reach, but so did what looked like ceremonial bowls carved from horn and wood. The spice rack held both ordinary cooking herbs and others Maya didn't recognize, plants that seemed to hum with an energy she could almost taste. The pack gathers here for moon meals, Gabriel explained, catching her curious gaze. 23 adults, 11 children. It gets crowded, but wolves like being close to family. Through the living room's picture windows, Maya could see a wide deck that wrapped around the cabin's main level. Here, comfortable furniture mixed with more primitive elements, tree stumps smoothed into seats, fire pits for gathering, and what looked like carved totems marking the cardinal directions. Tommy was entranced by everything, especially the photographs that covered nearly every surface. Instead of traditional family portraits, Gabriel's home displayed images of wolves in their natural habitat, but Maya was beginning to understand these weren't just wildlife photography. "That's Marcus," Luna said, pointing to a magnificent gray wolf with intelligent amber eyes. "He's Daddy's beta. And that's Sarah with her cubs. They're 3 years old now but still shift into puppies when they get excited." The casual way Luna spoke about shifting, about pack dynamics and wolf behavior, reminded Maya again how much she still didn't understand about the world she'd stumbled into. These weren't people who occasionally became wolves, they were beings who existed fully in both forms, with social structures and traditions that span generations. "Luna, why don't you show Tommy the game room?" Gabriel suggested. "I put in a new Xbox last month." As the children ran upstairs, Maya found herself alone with Gabriel for the first time since the playground. Without the immediate threat of danger, she could study him more carefully, the way he moved with predatory grace even in human form, the way his eyes tracked sounds she couldn't hear, the barely leashed wildness that seemed to emanate from his very pores. "This is beautiful," she said honestly, running her hands along the smooth granite countertop. "But it must get lonely, living so far from civilization." Gabriel's smile held an edge of sadness. "Isolation is necessary for our kind. Too much human contact makes it harder to maintain the balance between our two natures." And after Luna was taken, he trailed off, his jaw tightening with remembered pain. "You blame yourself. I let my guard down. Got comfortable. Forgot that there are humans out there who see us as specimens rather than people." Gabriel's eyes flashed gold, just for a moment. "It won't happen again." Maya wanted to argue, to tell him that 3 months of desperate searching proved he was hardly negligent. But she was beginning to understand that guilt was a luxury Gabriel couldn't afford, not as an alpha responsible for an entire pack's safety. From upstairs came the sound of Luna's laughter, bright and carefree in a way Maya hadn't heard since finding her in that alley. The little girl was home, surrounded by her father's love and protection, and for the first time in months, she could simply be a child. That afternoon, while Luna napped and Tommy explored the cabin's library, Maya finally found the courage to call her Aunt Helen in San Francisco. Her grandmother's younger sister had always been the family keeper of old stories and traditions, though Maya had dismissed most of them as superstition. "Maya." Helen's voice was warm with surprise. "I was just thinking about you. How are you doing, honey?" It's complicated, Aunt Helen." Maya clutched her grandmother's journal tighter. "I need to ask you something about Grandma Elena. Did she ever mention anything about wolves? Or keeping old ways?" The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long that Maya wondered if the call had dropped. Then Helen sighed, a sound heavy with decades of carefully guarded secrets. "Where are you calling from, Maya? Are you somewhere safe?" The question sent a chill down Maya's spine. "Why would you ask that?" "Because if you're asking about Elena's journals, it means the old bloodline is awakening. And that means you're in more danger than you can possibly imagine." Maya's hands began to shake. "Aunt Helen, what are you talking about? What bloodline?" "Your great-great-grandmother came from China in 1892, Helen said quietly. But she wasn't fleeing poverty or seeking opportunity. She was running from something that had killed her family, something that hunted people like us. People like us? Keepers, Maya. Bridgewalkers. Humans born with the ability to connect with the supernatural world. Elena inherited the gift, and she passed it to you through your father's line. Maya thought of her father, who had died when she was 15. Robert Chen had been a quiet man, more comfortable in forests than cities, with an uncanny ability to calm frightened animals and predict weather changes days in advance. Daddy wasn't. I mean, he was completely normal, Maya protested weakly. Normal men don't marry women who dream of running with wolves, Helen replied gently. Your mother told me once that she fell in love with your father because he smelled like pine trees and rain, even in the middle of downtown San Francisco. The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She'd forgotten that detail about her parents' courtship, forgotten how her mother used to joke about David's wild scent that had attracted her from across a crowded college lecture hall. The gift skips generations sometimes, Helen continued. Elena married your grandfather thinking she could live a normal human life, but the wolves found her anyway. They always do, when the bloodline is strong. Maya's mind reeled as childhood memories suddenly took on new meaning. The dreams she'd had of running through moonlit forests on 4 legs. The way stray dogs had always followed her home. Her inexplicable ability to sense illness in patients before symptoms appeared, an intuition that had made her one of the best trauma nurses in Cedar Falls. Aunt Helen, Maya whispered, what does it mean to be a keeper? What am I supposed to do? You're supposed to protect the boundary between human and supernatural worlds. To serve as translator and guardian when the two sides need to work together. Helen's voice grew urgent. But Maya, the old enemies are stirring again. If you're asking these questions, it means they've found you. Through the cabin's windows, Maya could see Gabriel chopping wood with an efficiency that spoke of supernatural strength. Every few minutes, he would pause and scan the tree line, his enhanced senses alert for threats she couldn't detect. I'm with wolves now, Maya said quietly. A pack. They're protecting me and Tommy. Thank God. Helen's relief was palpable. Elena's journals mentioned the Winters pack specifically. They're old allies, good people. Trust them, Maya. But be careful, not all supernatural beings have humanity's best interests at heart. After Helen hung up with promises to send more of Elena's papers via overnight delivery, Maya sat staring at her grandmother's journal with new understanding. The dreams hadn't been imagination. The connection she felt to Gabriel and Luna wasn't just emotional attachment. It was recognition. Her wolf-touched blood recognizing its own kind. A sound from the kitchen made her look up to find Gabriel standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. How much did you hear? Maya asked. Enough. Gabriel moved closer, and Maya caught that wild scent that reminded her of pine forests and storm winds. Maya, if you truly carry keeper blood, it explains why Luna bonded with you so quickly. Why you were able to find her when trained searchers couldn't. Does it change anything? Between us, I mean? Gabriel's hazel eyes searched her face intently. It means you're not just human. It means you belong in this world in ways I didn't understand before. The way he said, belong, made Maya's pulse quicken with something that had nothing to do with fear. Marcus arrived at sunset, his motorcycle's roar announcing his presence long before he appeared on the cabin's front deck. Gabriel's beta was exactly what Maya had expected from the photographs, tall, lean, and radiating the controlled power of a natural warrior. What she hadn't expected was the obvious tension in his posture as he greeted his alpha. We need to talk, Marcus said without preamble, his amber eyes flicking to Maya with undisguised suspicion. Privately. Anything you have to say to me can be said in front of Maya, Gabriel replied, his tone carrying unmistakable authority. She's packed now. Marcus's expression darkened. That's exactly what we need to discuss. Gabriel, you're moving too fast. Bringing humans into pack business, especially with Victor still hunting us. Those humans saved Luna's life, Gabriel cut him off, his voice carrying the edge of an alpha's command. Maya protected my daughter when I couldn't. That makes her family. For how long? Marcus challenged. Until Victor captures her and uses her against us? Until she decides our secrets are too dangerous and calls the authorities? Gabriel, you're thinking with your heart instead of your head. Maya felt the weight of scrutiny from both men and realized this conversation would determine whether she and Tommy were truly safe here or merely temporary guests. In the shifter world, it seemed, trust had to be earned through more than good intentions. Marcus, she said quietly, stepping forward despite the intimidating power both men radiated. I understand your concerns. You don't know me, and you have every reason to be suspicious. But I need you to understand something. Victor already tried to take Luna once. If I don't help stop him, he'll succeed eventually. And then Tommy and I will be loose ends that need to be eliminated. Marcus studied her with those unsettling amber eyes. You're asking us to risk pack safety for strangers. I'm asking you to let me help protect people I care about. Maya met his gaze steadily. I'm a trauma nurse, Marcus. I've been saving lives for 8 years. I know how to keep secrets, how to work under pressure, and how to make hard decisions when lives are at stake. Before Marcus could respond, Luna appeared at Maya's side like a small, golden-eyed shadow. The little girl looked up at the imposing Beta with the fearless confidence of a born pack member. Marcus, Luna said solemnly, Maya is family. She kept me safe when the bad men came. She didn't run away even when she was scared. That makes her pack. In shifter culture, Maya was learning, a child's acceptance carried enormous weight. Marcus's expression softened as he looked down at Luna, and Maya saw genuine affection beneath his protective suspicion. Luna girl, Marcus said gently, you know I trust your judgment. But accepting humans into the pack. Maya's not just human, Luna interrupted with childlike directness. She smells like pack. Like forest and moonlight. Can't you smell it? Marcus's nostrils flared slightly, and Maya saw surprise flicker across his features. There is something different about her, he admitted reluctantly. Keep her blood, Gabriel explained. Her grandmother's journals confirm it. Maya's from a bloodline that served as bridges between our worlds. Before Marcus could respond, a sharp whistle from the forest made all 3 adults freeze. It was Luna who interpreted the signal. Sarah's coming, she said. And she's hurt. They found Sarah Collins collapsed at the edge of Gabriel's property line, her human form bearing claw marks that spoke of a vicious fight. The pack's healer was barely conscious, but she managed to gasp out a warning before Maya's medical training took over. Ambush, Sarah whispered as Maya quickly assessed her injuries. They knew we were coming back from patrol. Someone told them our route. Gabriel's face went white with rage and realization. A traitor. Someone in the pack is feeding Victor information. Maya ignored the implications for now, focusing on the immediate medical crisis. Sarah's injuries were severe but not life-threatening if treated properly. As she worked to clean and bandage the wounds, Maya was dimly aware of the pack gathering around them, drawn by their healer's distress. She was so focused on her patient that she almost missed the murmur of approval from the watching shifters as her competent hands worked to save one of their own. By the time Sarah was stable and resting comfortably, Maya had somehow passed an unspoken test. Thank you, Marcus said quietly as they walked back to the cabin. Sarah's important to all of us. You saved her life. Maya nodded, still processing what Sarah's warning meant. If there was a traitor in Gabriel's pack, then nowhere was truly safe. Victor's reach was longer than they'd imagined. That night, as the pack gathered around Gabriel's massive dining table to plan their next move, Maya found herself studying faces and listening to conversations with growing unease. Someone here, someone Gabriel trusted completely, was secretly working with Victor Kane. How did Victor's men know about our patrol route? Gabriel asked the assembled wolves. Sarah's team followed the same path they've used for months. There's no way Victor could have predicted their location without inside information. The silence that followed was heavy with suspicion and fear. Pack bonds were sacred among shifters, betrayal from within was almost unthinkable. Could be coincidence, suggested Jamie, a young wolf who served as the pack scout. Victor's got resources. Maybe his people have been watching us longer than we thought. For 3 months? Marcus shook his head grimly. No. Someone's been feeding him information. The question is who? Maya watched the pack members carefully, looking for tells that her nursing experience had taught her to recognize, the subtle signs of guilt or deception that people couldn't quite hide. But every face around the table showed only shock and anger at the suggestion of betrayal. There's something else, Gabriel said reluctantly. Victor's men found us at the hospital too quickly. Maya triggered the lockdown, but they were already in position. They knew we'd go there. The implication hung in the air like a poison cloud. Someone had known about Maya's connection to Cedar Falls General. Someone had predicted Gabriel's likely actions and fed that information to the enemy. Who knew you were going after Maya? Marcus asked, his voice carefully neutral. Gabriel's jaw tightened. All of you. I told the council about tracking Luna's scent to the human woman's apartment. About my plan to approach her. Maya felt the weight of suspicious glances and realized how convenient her presence must seem to a paranoid mind. The human woman who appeared out of nowhere, gained Gabriel's trust, and led him straight into Victor's trap. I know what you're thinking, she said quietly. But if I were working with Victor, why would I risk my life to save Luna? Why would I put my own son in danger? Maybe Victor's more clever than we thought, suggested Rebecca, an older female whose silver-streaked hair spoke of decades of pack leadership. Maybe the whole rescue was staged to gain our trust. Luna's small voice cut through the growing tension like a knife. Maya's not a traitor, she said with absolute certainty. I can smell lies. I can smell fear and anger and sadness. But Maya only smells like love and protection and pack. The simple statement from their alpha's daughter carried more weight than any argument Maya could have made. Shifter children were notorious for their ability to sense deception, and Luna had survived 3 months in Victor's laboratory by learning to read people with supernatural accuracy. But even Luna's endorsement couldn't completely dispel the atmosphere of suspicion that had settled over Gabriel's pack like a suffocating blanket. Someone here was a traitor, and until they were identified, no one could be completely trusted. We can't keep operating normally, Gabriel said finally. From now on, information is shared on a need-to-know basis only. No one goes anywhere alone. And we assume every communication is being monitored. As the pack dispersed to their various duties, Maya caught Marcus watching her with thoughtful amber eyes. The beta had accepted her presence, but she could see him cataloging her every word and action for future analysis. Trust, she was learning, was a luxury the supernatural world couldn't afford. That night, as Maya tucked Tommy into the guest room's comfortable bed, she felt the first stirrings of something she couldn't quite identify. It started as restlessness, a prickling sensation under her skin that made her want to run through the moonlit forest beyond Gabriel's cabin. Mommy, Tommy said sleepily, why do you smell different? Maya paused in arranging his blankets. Different how, baby? Like the woods. Like when we went camping with Daddy, and you said the mountain air made you feel more alive. The innocent observation sent a chill through Maya's system. Her scent was changing, becoming wilder, more like the shifters who surrounded them. It should have been impossible. Humans didn't just spontaneously develop supernatural characteristics. Unless they weren't entirely human to begin with. Downstairs, she found Gabriel standing on the deck, his face turned toward the full moon that hung like a silver coin above the mountain peaks. He was so still he might have been carved from stone, but Maya could sense the wildness thrumming just beneath his human facade. Gabriel? She approached carefully, suddenly aware of how the moonlight seemed to make her skin glow with an inner radiance she'd never noticed before. He turned toward her, and Maya gasped at what she saw in his eyes. The hazel had been completely swamped by gold, and his pupils had contracted to vertical slits that belonged on a predator, not a man. You feel it too, he said, his voice rougher than usual. The call of the moon. The need to run and hunt and let your true nature free. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs, but it wasn't fear that made her pulse race. It was recognition, as if some deeply buried part of her was finally waking up after years of dormancy. "I don't understand what's happening to me," she whispered. Gabriel stepped closer, and Maya caught his scent, pine and rain and something fundamentally wild that made her want to press her face against his throat and breathe him in. "Keeper blood responds to prolonged contact with shifters," he said softly. "Your grandmother's journals mention it. The dormant genes awaken when triggered by strong emotional connections to our kind." "Emotional connections?" Gabriel's gold-touched eyes searched her face intently. "Luna has claimed you as pack mother. You've accepted that bond, haven't you? You love her as if she were your own daughter." Maya nodded, unable to deny the truth. In 3 days, Luna had somehow become as precious to her as Tommy. "And there's something else," Gabriel continued, his voice dropping to a barely audible murmur. "Something between us. I can smell it on you, Maya, the way your scent changes when I'm near, the way your pulse quickens. You're responding to me as a potential mate." The word mate hung in the air between them, loaded with implications Maya wasn't ready to process. But she couldn't deny the pull she felt toward Gabriel, the way her body seemed to recognize his on some primal level that had nothing to do with rational thought. "Is that what's happening?" she asked shakily. "Am I becoming like you?" "Not like us, exactly. But connected to us in ways that blur the line between human and shifter." Gabriel reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face in his hands. "Maya, your eyes. What about them?" But even as she asked the question, Maya caught sight of her reflection in the cabin's windows. Her dark eyes, which had always been purely human, now held flecks of silver that seemed to shift and dance in the moonlight. "Mommy?" They both turned to find Tommy standing in the doorway, rubbing his eyes with one small fist. The 6-year-old looked between Maya and Gabriel with the matter-of-fact acceptance that only children possessed. "Your eyes look like Luna's now," Tommy said sleepily. "All sparkly and pretty. Does that mean we're going to be wolves too?" Maya stared at her son in shock, then back at Gabriel, whose expression held wonder and something that might have been hope. The transformation had begun, and there was no going back. This is the end of the part 1 of this story. Check channel for continuation. If you are enjoying this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more exciting story like this.